What up, brothers and sisters, and welcome to MTG Malone with me, MtgA Malone. What? No funny intro? That is right, because today we have a very special guest. We have Ian from Wizards of the Coast actually with us today. He's the product owner of Cardset. Ian,
Yes.
first of all, welcome. I'm so
Thank you so
glad to have
much.
you here. You are the product owner of Cardset. So that is your
Yes,
role on the MTG Arena team, right? But
correct.
what does that mean, and how does your day look at a owner of Cardset?
So, product owner of Cardset is the corporate way of saying I'm in charge of the part where you play Magic. So, anything outside of that, deck building, events, getting logged in, all that kind of stuff, that's other people. But once you hit play and you've mulliganed, that's my area. So
Oh wait, so
implementing.
you're in charge of the mulligans?
I'm in charge of the mulligans. I'm in
Good to
charge
have
of
your
the
number
shuffler.
now.
It's me.
Yeah, perfect. Because I want to talk to your intern as well, because I need some better hands when I keep on streaming, because sometimes that's
Sometimes it's not with you.
So you know a lot about Magic, obviously, right?
I do.
That's perfect.
I can explain why things happen in layers sometimes. Not all the way down, but like I can talk about it.
So how did you get to Magic then, and how did you fall in love with Magic?
So I've played Magic. The first Magic that I bought was Ice Age, back in '95. So I was someone I've been playing it for years and years. I am someone who has a big tendency to collect things. I was already in comic shops, which is how I became familiar with Magic at the time. Uh, and I was always a little bit careful. Like I would play for a little bit and then I would give my cards away. And over the years, I've worked in the video game industry for most of my adult life. And there's no game studio out there where you can't get a draft of Magic or a sealed league or something going. And so over the years, I would dip in and I'd play in a sealed league at work. And at the end, I would go, I can't have all these cards in my house. I know myself. I'm going to have boxes and boxes of Magic cards. And then a few years back, a studio I was working for moved everyone to Japan. I wasn't able to go. I talked to some friends who work here and I was excited about Magic and got started. And I now have I don't know, 15, 20 boxes in the attic of Magic cards.
So small collection, just a small, very, very tiny collection.
just a few.
It's so cool to hear that you're actually like the typical Magic player story. Like so many people, like it's crazy how many people started with Ice Age. Actually, in my comments, I see that a lot, and all of them are so happy that all of them had like this little pause. Maybe I think everybody goes through that with their hobby.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty normal. But it's good to know as an arena player that the people in charge at least know what they're doing and that they're very passionate about the game. Like,
oh yeah,
that is something that. So, do you play arena as well, or do you prefer like paper Magic?
I play both. On Arena, I would say I'm mostly a historic player. That's been my favorite format for a long time. In paper, we do a lot of limited around the office. We do a pre-release every time there's a new set. We have a sealed league going for whatever set's happening at the time.
That is so cool.
So right now I've got a Turtles deck that it's doing okay. I'm doing all right.
It's the Turtles.
Yeah.
We try to make it work. It's
yeah.
So for me, the same with the Spider-Man set. I'm just such a huge comic book nerd. Maybe you can see it in my name as well. MtgA Malone is obviously like...
Yeah, the Batman.
Yeah, exactly. So you told me you play Arena as well. And
I do.
Is there maybe also like a certain kind of strategy that you prefer on Arena? Or is there like a certain kind of style that you like playing most?
So I have a handful of different decks that I've played over the years. I go back to Elves a lot. There's just something I don't know. There's like a meditative quality to trying to make a bunch of mana and then turn all the green guys sideways. It's relaxing in a way certain other decks aren't.
Out.
Yeah, you get hoof out and you're just like, I don't know. It chills me out in a way. Some other decks are really fun, but you got to be really, I don't know. That deck out of all the decks calms me down.
I totally get that. It's also like it's just honest magic. It's pure magic. One of the first things
Yeah.
in Magic was elves. It has this fantasy element that is just, I don't know, just works in every fantasy. You can have elves, and it would just never be weird. And just
Yeah.
they're so good. Like, just as you said, just turning the little guys sideways to bring in the big guys. There's nothing better. We're all Timmy
Yeah.
at heart. I remember, like, Thorn Elemental will always be
Yeah.
my first love.
100%.
So you're also in charge of like getting the mechanics work into the game. Was there anything that was especially challenging while trying to bring those mechanics into Arena, especially, and why?
There have been a few big ones. Some of them I think are reasonably obvious. Like rooms were a ton of work. Rooms have a whole bunch of complicated rules. They're a
Oh yeah,
different
okay.
aspect ratio than other cards. They have the complicated thing where what color they are varies depending on which room you've opened. If you blink a room, it's technically colorless on the battlefield, but has activated abilities of whatever color each room it is, and trying to design the UI so that that's all clear, and then dealing with, what happens when you turn a room into a creature and that kind of stuff. Like rooms are one where as
Oh,
soon as you start talking about it, it becomes obvious just how complicated they had to be. But there's subtle things too. Dao Chan in the bonus sheet for Avatar was incredibly complicated because it's the very first card on Arena where an ability you control includes targeting done by an opponent. And that's a
oh,
whole new paradigm for how things work. You have to do work around timers. You have to make sure your opponent can't just like waste your turn while they're sitting there with your ability on the stack, but they're the ones controlling the targeting. There's all kinds of edge cases
oh,
around them like intentionally targeting things with ward or hexproof, and making sure that the game recognizes that the person who's doing the targeting isn't the person who controls the effect. Like it's this little card you read and you're like, oh yeah, sure, no big deal. And it's like, no, actually it's a really huge deal.
I think people take for granted a lot what is actually happening on Arena, because a lot of the things that just come natural to us as people, like we read the card, we get what it does. We would never think about the timer or how does hexproof work now and stuff like that.
Right.
But on Arena, you have to like write all of these things out. Like you have literally to take the comprehensive rule set of Magic and turn it into code. That is insane. That
Yes.
is absolutely insane. Like, was there like a set that was especially like challenging for it? Like now we had the mechanic, but was there a whole set that was more challenging than others?
Sure. I mean, the obvious answer there is Modern Horizons 3, which
Oh,
is
how come
just
so?
pure, it's pure volume. There's just so many
Okay.
mechanics. There's so many things we
Yeah.
hadn't done before.
Okay.
There weren't like individual things that were super super hard in Modern Horizons 3. There was just so much stuff that all had to work and work together. Um, in terms of single mechanics, Ikoria might still have the record for the set that was, because that had Companion, which was plenty
Mm-hmm.
complicated and confusing on its own, and then it had Mutate, and Mutate is full of, so many weird, like the edge cases you have to solve for that. Like if you have a manifested spell and you mutate over it and then you clone that to be an old growth troll and you kill the old growth troll, which of the cards is able to come back as an aura?
Oh my god. Old growth troll. That is a flashback. Yeah, that is wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought you would say mutate actually. Like before when I asked you the question about the mechanic, I thought you would
Oh
say
yeah.
mutate. Like that is one of the mechanics that really taught me how to understand Magic actually, because I don't play
Sure.
that long. I started playing in between Dominaria and Guild of Ravnica is when I
Sure.
started playing. So I'm a huge Thief of Sanity fanboy. Um, and like it was so crazy how many things you had to consider when you thought about cloning, but about mutating. And I think that that
Yes.
was something that teaches people a lot about how Magic cards are to be seen. And I think that's also so crazy to put, as you said, which card returns? Like, what is the one card that returns? And we
Yeah.
have seen what people have done in Commander with it, and I think that also Brawl is also like one of those formats that just must
Oh
go
yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
There's wild stuff happens in Brawl for sure.
Like I know that like the tabletop of course influences Arena itself by being the game that Arena takes from, and like the only unique things I would say that Arena brings are like Don't get me wrong, it's not, I don't want to belittle what you're doing, but it's alchemy. Like, you still have to code all the rest, but that is the part that is exclusive to Arena.
Right.
If you leave out the bonus cards that we had in the mystery booster packs too, where we also had the actual alchemy cards in paper form for the first time. But has there been, apart from that, like parts where Arena has influenced how the team thinks about tabletop decisions? Like, do you know that if there's any influence on the card game itself?
I think there's two places where you see it. One is there are some times where people are a little more thoughtful about wording, where we use an up to one instead of a target creature. You know, there's at the beginning of your upkeep, move any number of +1/+1 counters from this creature to up to one target creature, because otherwise you have to target your opponent's creature if they've got one out. Like, there's a bunch of Magic rules around targeting where if you write up to one instead of target creature, it lets you avoid. And again, this is a thing where you're not, the outcome hasn't changed at all. You were never forced to move counters, but you still technically in the rules had to say that's target creature for this ability and I don't move any counters. And so, you know, little wording changes like that are definitely a thing that happens. The other one is just that we have a lot of data about how cards get played and which ones get used that we never had before. Many, many, many more games get played on Arena than that we
Absolutely.
have the data for. So people are able to make decisions about, you know, what actually happens in limited games, what cards get used, how are decks performing. And I think that's had a lot of impact on how people have, you know, how we've designed limited formats. I think that's led to, I am of the opinion that we've had a long streak of really satisfying limited formats recently, and a lot of that I think came from just being better informed.
People do agree. Like, I remember that a lot of people are saying that especially the Final Fantasy will be like one of those all-time best limited formats. I try to get better at limited. So for me, it's like I won one pre-release in my life, and it was the Spider-Man pre-release. So I'm very proud of that one. But it's interesting what you said. So you said that like some decisions that are made in wording, are they made so that I would have to click one time less? Is it
Yeah,
that, or like, okay, so it's
there are
just
definitely thoughts around like, hey, can we make this click less? Can we make sure that, you know, you aren't picking targets for an ability that you aren't actually going to want to use, that kind of thing. Both to click less and because for new players, there's very few things more scary than like, you know, you've got an ability where at the beginning of combat you can move target equipment. Well, I don't want to move that equipment. It's where I want it to be. And it's like, yeah, but you still have to target it in order to resolve the ability. And
it
it
can be
can be really
confusing. Yeah,
spooky for new players who don't know the rules yet. They don't understand why the game is making them target this thing. Because in paper, you would never, you know, at a table, you would never say, I target that and then I don't move it.
yeah, you would just not do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you can shortcut so much in paper that it's just impossible to do on Arena. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's impressive. Like, just to see the sheer amount of interactions, and if there's new set that bring in old mechanics that are not even in standard, and just like all the anthologies that we had in Arena, for example, they bring in so much stuff that we need to think about. Yeah, there's like a whole new world is opening up for me that I took it for granted myself. I will admit it. I took it for granted as well. We kind of talked about this question already before, about balancing also, but maybe we can get a bit more in detail in how the digital platform, like you already said, that we get way more data from all the games that are played. How does that approach the balance, like compared to paper?
It's interesting with tabletop, you have to watch mostly tournament results, whereas with digital, we can see all the more casual games, you know, all the unranked matches and things that are happening. Um, and it leads to a different picture of things. A lot of times, the honest answer is it just makes things more complicated. There are times where you have a format where the ladder is fine and the unranked is fine and the last tournament looked bad. And so you have to decide how much you want to impact all of that casual play that seems perfectly healthy in order to fix tournament results and make sure tournament results are also healthy. So that's an interesting challenge, that sometimes having more information doesn't give you a clearer picture. There's just more information.
Yeah, you have to filter that as well.
Exactly.
Like the more data also means that like it just gets a little bit grayer in general. Like the
Exactly.
spikes are not that extreme because there's so many games. As you already said, the amount of games people are playing is also one of the reasons why people like see so many things happening so many times. But if you roll a die like a million times, there will be a time where you roll a 6, 10 times in a row. It's just like what will happen. Like
that's how it goes.
That's just how it is. So you have the special challenge also to be balancing alchemy, because you have like the special ability to just go inside of the game itself and change cards, not via errata like we already talked about companions, which I think was also like a challenge. There's errata. I think there was like one big meeting when that happened. But just you have the ability to do that. So how do you decide there? Because there's not a lot of tournaments actually happening with Historic or Alchemy itself. So how's the balancing? Is that purely on the data with Arena? How do you proceed there?
There's data, and then we also try to look at player sentiment. Player sentiment can be really tricky because there are cards. There's a subset of cards that feel oppressive because if your opponent manages to play them, they win. But then you look at the numbers and you go, oh, that deck only manages to play that card 4 times out of 10. That's actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
Whenever you see it, it's great. You know, they get the card down, the combo goes off, the deck seems totally unbeatable and unfair. And what you don't realize is you played 2 other matches against it where you were like, what are they doing? And then you killed them.
Tybalt's Trickery, my friend. Tybalt's Trickery.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite decks, but like at a certain point I had to realize I'm only winning 1 out of 10 games with this deck. But people hated it and we had to take measures. So
yeah.
It was crazy, yeah.
It was.
But that's interesting, yeah. I think players' bias plays a lot into that. And I think there's a lot of things that people just, we talked about this now before, like if you play a certain amount of games, a certain amount of things will just happen. So do you think there's like something that Arena players believe and that they're so focused on that, but it's just not true, that the data contradicts completely?
I mean, the one that I hear the most from people is that there's got to be something wrong with the shuffler somewhere, or with the rate at which lands come out and that kind of thing. And my real sincere answer is that there are millions and millions of matches of replays on the internet. You can go to various different tracker sites and get their data sets. They're pretty much all public. And if you can find a statistical anomaly in there that shows an error, I would genuinely want to know about it so we can fix it. But so far, whenever anybody who doesn't work here looks through that data, they come back saying, that looks right. And I believe, you know, people have crazy runs of bad luck. That's real and it happens. But when there are millions of people playing the game, that 1 in a million chance happens to someone. It's out there.
That is exactly it. I think people forget how many games they're playing. And it's also like, people like to call it rigged, you know, the shuffle is rigged or something like that. And I always say the same thing. If you honestly believe that, why are you still playing that game? You know? So I think people actually don't believe it. They just try to like blame outside factors for something that they are out of control of. Like, you don't shuffle your own game.
And it's, you know, I've had that night where I'm like, really? I'm going second again? 8 games in a row? I've been there. It happens to us too.
Hey, talk to your intern.
One of the things that's worth remembering is if the game tried to ruin matches for one person, it has to be giving matches away to someone. So who is the person? How do you get on that list?
That is exactly what I always say. Why does it rig it only for me, though? That is what I always tell people. So they're like, yeah, the game is rigged. And I said, why is it rigging it only for me, though? I honestly believe that sometimes I also am guilty of like searching outside factors to justify why I lost. I have
Sure.
another stupid land on top, of course, and I like if I predict something and I'm right, I will make a big fuss about it. But if I'm wrong, I will be just like, okay, no, it never happened. So that is, I think, something that just is hard to get lost of. But I think as you already said, like every video that was made about it, where there was literal data shown, where people also said maybe something like, if you are pay to play, you get dealt better hands than if you're free to play. No data can prove it. And I think it's
Nothing.
so easy to prove it. Just
Well, and
write a script.
I have heard that the people who pay get better hands, and the thing about that to me is, if spending money gets you something, we don't keep it a secret. Like, we are trying to sell things to people, and we want to be really clear about what you get when you spend money,
It's so true.
so that, like, you don't secretly give people things for money. You tell them that you get these packs, you get this bonus. There's big special effects in the golden packs counting up when you buy things, because we want you to know this is what you paid for. Please feel good about it and be
And pay
excited,
more.
and buy something again in the future.
It makes so much sense. It's those
Yeah.
things that people just like blend out. They're just like, okay, yeah. And once they hear it, they will be like, damn, you're right. It's always what happens. It's just like they're too focused on one thing. And I think it's
Yeah.
natural. It's human to be focused on one
Yeah.
thing. I mean, if you
I
call
mean,
it bad luck or the shuffler, it's just the same thing.
I get it. I work with software engineers who are, experts on statistics. They have much better understandings of it than the average person. And they will still, when they're playing D&D, will decide that a dice is unlucky that night. They'll put that one aside. They'll pick a different D20. And they know that's not how it works, but you can't overcome that part of your human brain that says, no, magic's real, and it's
It
making
is.
this dice misbehave today.
That's why I'm wearing this jacket. It helps. It filters my magic. But I do the same with bowling balls. Yesterday I had a ball that just never threw strikes. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm not using this one again.
that ball's unlucky today.
Exactly. And it happens. It happens. Sometimes RNG's on your side, sometimes it's not. It's just a
Exactly.
thing. But let's get back on topic here. I already see there will be maybe part 2 or 3 of all of this. We're just
Sure.
talk a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more about the difference between arena and tabletop. Like, obviously, we both like both, and it's pretty cool that we get the chance to actually have such a true version to Magic, at least for these formats that we have right now. That doesn't look like it was made by a German text code people, because that is what, for me, MTG Online, I don't want to shame online, but it just looks outdated. That is all I have to say. But what is one of your favorite aspects that we have on Arena that is just not possible for a tabletop?
I mean, the biggest one for me is that I can decide at 12:30 at night that I want to play a game of Magic. I can decide I want to be in a draft, and it just, you got it. Like, I remember so vividly, like, being 14 years old and trying to find time with my friends where we're going to be able to get together and play Magic, and you know get the group together and and the fact that now it's just like, I really do sometimes take it for granted that just whenever I want a game of Magic, it's a minute away tops. That's
It's
pretty
true.
incredible.
That is absolutely incredible. That is also something that I thought about today. I was listening to a podcast and it was about like, yeah, but this event happened when we didn't even have internet. And that is something that is crazy because like Magic also existed way before the advent of the
Yeah,
internet. So, and it's also something that is crazy because it had to grow with it. So we had multiple times that people tried to make Magic work in a digital format. And I think Arena up until now is just like peak. I've played a lot of tried a lot of other card games as well. And they always had to make like, um how do you call it, they always had to have compromise onto something, like
sure.
maybe it was close to the original, but this is the digital version, so we had to make compromise. And that is something that I also never feel on Arena. That is like, also as you said, we take it for granted already, but I was there since day one. I still have the Teferi with the special art style from the beta. I have everything. I was
Nice.
there. But it's just exactly what you say, like just being able to sit down and
Yeah.
not having to have like 3 friends that are awake at the same time and maybe want to like set up their camera to play a run of Commander or maybe even a Steel or whatever. That's crazy to just have that like at your fingertips at any time, and also on mobile now. That is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
is mobile a special challenge for you guys apart from the UI?
Yeah, definitely. it's the UI, and then the difference in processor power is meaningful, and there's the I don't want to get too like into the weeds and start using
No,
the
no,
words
it's
like
fine.
interface idiom, but like the way that you interact with things on mobile tends to be a lot more like dragging and stretching, whereas it's a lot more clicking and pointing on digital. Making sure that everything we need to communicate is communicated on mobile, where like mousing over is not as easily done, and it certainly doesn't happen on accident on mobile. And we have a whole lot of people learning Magic for the first time through mobile phones because of that app, uh, and making sure that we're giving them an experience uh, that is robust enough that they get the game and they can kind of fall in love with it like we have is a really big challenge, but it's something that's important to us.
I tried it on mobile as well, like for some events even, and I even won those events and I was amazed. Of course, it's hard to, if you have Magic is insane. If you have a board of like 50 planeswalkers and 2,000 lands, you cannot have that all on one screen. It's and I think the solutions are pretty good. You just scroll a little over. I mean, it's a game state that will not happen every game. So, um, is there like any feature on tabletop that you wish that you could build easily into Arena that you maybe weren't able to do up until now?
The thing that I miss the most from tabletop is one of the hardest things to bring back to digital, which is just the sitting across from another person and chatting and being able to have that person to person connection that you get playing Magic in person. One of the big challenges that we've learned over the years of the internet is that when you start adding back social elements in digital spaces, you add the worst experiences back first. You before you get the people like becoming lifelong friends aspects, you get the rude person, you get the angry person, you get the vulgar, hateful person, and I think it is worth trying to solve, especially as we look at the future of the game and what we can add to it, and uh, things like the challenge lobbies we're working on that are going to let people communicate and play together more. Uh, but it's a big challenge, and the fact that you're not really in person with someone has a not great impact on how a lot of people behave.
That is true. That is true. Sadly, that is like one of the first things that I always thought about voice chat in whatever game, for example. It doesn't even have to be voice chat, but voice chat facilitates it even more. Um, I think it's sad, and it just takes away from the people that it's always like this one drip of blood that will turn a whole pool of water dirty. Like, it's there's always one bad
Yeah.
apple that ruins it for the rest of us.
That's like we used to in your logs, you would have the full username of your opponent.
Hmm?
So you would actually be able to add them. That's something we knew about, and we kind of figured like, well, people who care enough to do that, that can be a thing that they go and do. We don't have to surface it, but if people want to dig for that, they can. And then it started turning into an issue because people would get into their logs, get that username, add someone, get added, chat something terrible to them about the game they just played, and then block them and quit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it happened enough to the point that we pulled the username out of the logs so that people couldn't do that anymore because it was being used for abuse more than anything
Yeah.
helpful.
It was used for bad instead of good. Yeah, it's always sad. It's always it's sadly those people that will be spiteful enough to go search for your name online and just.
Yeah.
But hey, that is just also like human behavior, and it's sad because once more, like, but we still got a chance to chat with our friends, so that is already like at
Yeah.
least that. So if you want to chat with your friends, and that absolutely works. So I did it, been there, done that, and it works perfectly. Like it's also funny, like when you're on stream, I have to turn off my friend list so that people
Sure.
don't send me something nasty or whatever. Um, is there any misconceptions that tabletop players have about Arena that you know about, and vice versa, which are just weird to you?
Um, so we talked a little bit about, there are assumptions of people that like, oh, they've got to rig stuff or they've got to be cheating or something. Um, I have definitely seen misconceptions that like day night was made for digital, or this mechanic or that mechanic was something they came up with because they thought it would be for digital, and they weren't thinking about tabletop. And I'll like every mechanic that gets made for Magic comes out of tabletop playtesting. They are not making stuff digital first. They are sitting down at a table with cards that they printed out, the playtest cards that people have seen, and shuffling and playing a game in person. Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger ones that I've seen is people assuming like, oh yeah, they must be making things for Arena, and it's like, no, tabletop definitely comes first.
I mean, it's not that hard to keep track of day and night. Like, just
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't happen that much anymore. But that's crazy. I can imagine that people are like the people that just are so used to paper magic might have some like negative thoughts about digital magic, but it's weird to hear that these are like, yeah, they're putting in mechanics that are just made for digital. I mean, that's what alchemy is for, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you want to do that, you would just do that in alchemy, right?
Yeah, we have some digital only mechanics. We didn't print them out.
Not you did
Well, that's true, we did.
But only in a mystery booster. So
Yeah,
I wasn't lucky enough to pull one of those oracles of alpha, but damn, I wish I had one just to confuse the people. That's
I don't have one either, which bums me out.
yet.
Yet, that's true.
Like if somebody is playing tabletop and they have never tried Arena, do you think like there's actually something that could make them into better players, into better tabletop players if they use Arena for it?
I think Arena does a really good job of codifying and making it clear like what turn order is and where things happen and catching triggers and that kind of thing.
Mm.
I think a lot of people learn with Commander these days, which is it's awesome. It's a fun social way to play. I'm glad that people enjoy it. It does tend to be a pretty casual rules enforcement environment. There's a lot of
Maybe at your table.
well, I mean, I've most games of Commander I've played haven't had at least one moment where somebody's like, "I'm going to pass my turn after I fetch this land. Go ahead and start your turn," while they're like looking through their deck, and that's fine at a Commander table. And I think it can be helpful to have Arena, especially if someone's interested in playing more competitive, or even just like at a pre-release, where if you say, "I'm going to finish looking through my deck while you start your turn," you're probably going to get told, "No, thanks. You go ahead and finish your turn correctly." Uh, yeah, I think it can be a nice way to learn something a little bit more rules enforced. Uh, get your, casting requirements, understanding you have to have all your targeting done before, as you put an ability on the stack, that kind of thing.
It's interesting because it's actually something that I also realized for myself when I started playing Magic. Arena was just really fresh. Like it was just the time around Dominaria to Guild of Ravnica where Magic
Right.
Arena actually came out. Damn, I'm old. And and it's a lot of stuff where also I see online, oh, I think this person cheated. First of all, I think it's almost impossible to cheat on Arena as the things are happening on the server end. But we
Yeah.
will not talk about that because I think that's a whole can of worms that we should better not open today. Maybe next time. But where people think that somebody cheated and they just didn't understand a card, and from this moment where they thought, oh, they cheated because Arena did something that I did not expect. I think that is also
Right.
something that throws people off, and they would just like, oh, maybe I was wrong. And for me, it also happens where I'm like, if I want to test something out, if a certain rule works the way I think it should, I just go to Arena and try it. That is like something. Otherwise, I don't know judges. Should I call a judge on his phone and be like, Judge, it's like, what am I supposed to do? So I think Arena is very useful for that as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to say we get the overwhelming majority of things correct. Every once in a while, there are bugs. It happens. The engineers are human beings. But we're able to fix things pretty quickly these days, in particular. Most of the time I can get it out within the week, if not within a few days, when we discover something. Yeah. And there are a huge majority of the time, in my experience, when somebody thinks there's a bug, there's some card that has a line of text that you forgot about. It's Questing Beast is there, and somebody forgot that Questing Beast has damage can't be prevented.
Yes. Why does my
because it's
one
one
ring
of the
not
9
work?
things that card says. Yeah.
So was that your first nightmare on Arena, the questing beast?
The fact that Questing Beast was in the same set as I'm blanking on the name, but it's the
Bone
colorless
Crusher Giant?
serpent.
Oh,
There's
the
there's
color?
this the there's a colorless construct that has protection from multicolored, I think. And Questing Beast is in the set, and and Bone Crusher Giant while you're at. Well, yeah. There's plenty of these like a protection from card in the same set as in protection doesn't work card.
Okay.
Tends to be very confusing for folks.
Do you think that now that we talked about like how people can learn from Arena also, and like, but do you think like there's some way that they complement each other, Arena and tabletop, that they give each other something that the other doesn't have, and in that way just
I I would say so. I mean, I definitely get different things out of playing tabletop and playing arena. Um, playing in tabletop has I think there's definitely times where, especially with a good opponent, you can learn in ways that are harder to learn in arena. Playing with, uh, I have drafted many times here against Hall of Fame Magic players
okay,
and
cool.
tournament winners because that's who works here. That's
Oh,
the
man, I
people
mean,
who
yeah, sure.
design cards here,
I also work with
and
famous people. I work alone. Oh yeah, I work alone. I just was.
I mean that's just those are the people who are around. You sit down for a game, and sometimes you're up against Aaron Forsyth, who's been playing Magic for more than 30 years and designing it for a good chunk of it. Uh, and there's a lot to learn sitting across from them and being able to talk about the game and ask questions. Um, that said, nobody can get reps in and practice in tabletop like you can on arena. I I think one of the most fascinating differences is 10 years ago, if you said, "Oh, I drafted that set a ton. I drafted it so many times," you mean you drafted it 4 or 5 times.
On
And if
Friday Night Magic.
somebody's yeah, exactly. Like you went to Friday Night Magic for every time you could and you managed to get it in maybe 6 times was like I really loved that set. On Arena, if somebody tells me they drafted a set a ton of times, they mean like 50 times.
A day.
Yeah, like it's the volume of Magic you can play and the amount of reps you can get in is just so much higher.
That is absolutely true. There's also something that I realized I was like a little bit of jealousy. I went to my first RC and I was like, oh, people have place testing teams. They can just, but I was like, you can just play like a million games on Arena and just be smart, not just autopilot and maybe try to learn something. I've seen also like Nathan Stoyer, world champion, like
Yeah,
working on Arena with somebody on stream, and they were just playing best of three against each other. And they were talking about their hand openly and all of that. So you can still have the same experience that you have in
mhm,
tabletop while just sitting across the world, one person sitting in the US, the other person sitting in Germany, like we're doing right now, and just playing
absolutely.
Magic. That's absolutely amazing. While you still can go to your LGS and just play. I think people should not try to see it as how do you say it, as rivalry between arena and
Yeah,
table. I never did that. I don't get where people get that from. So I'm very happy
no.
that the development team also sees that both parts have its place, because it will always be that way. Arena will
Yeah,
never be a supplement for it will be a supplement. It will not be like taking its place. And tabletop
right.
will never take arena's place. Because
Yeah, they're just different. There's such different ways to experience Magic, and
yeah,
I'm definitely one of those people who's like it's the greatest game that people have ever made, and having more than one way to play it is just a good thing.
just amazing. Like as you said, you can just take out your phone and just have some fun before you go to bed, and then just continue the
100%.
draft later. Talking about magic, is there? Let's talk about real magic for a second, like the Copperfield kind of style. Was there ever like a moment in development for Arena where you thought that felt like real magic, where you were amazed at what is happening?
Um, I'm trying to think. The first thing that popped into my head is a thing I can't talk about yet.
Ah, yet.
Uh,
Okay, okay.
there's definitely times, yeah, where something just felt where we got something working that we had put off for a long time. I would say to go back to it again. Shipping all of Modern Horizons 3 felt pretty incredible. That was a huge set, and it was a big lift for the team to tackle something like Modern Horizons 3. The average Magic set has 3 or 4 mechanics. Like a faction set might have 5 or 6 mechanics. Modern Horizons 3 had 74 mechanics.
74? Oh my lord.
Yeah.
I think people don't know that. I think this is like a scoop that I'm just doing right now. Like, I don't think that people know how many mechanics actually were in it.
Yeah, it was just so much, and having the team come together and work on that and get it out the door, and it got out like it went out solid and clean, and it made one of these. I loved drafting Modern Horizons 1 and 2, but it was not something you got to do a lot. These were sets that most people drafted once or twice, maybe, and being able to have Modern Horizons 3 be a set that we were able to draft multiple times and spend time in that limited environment was just very, very cool to me. And it was a very big, like, without Arena, I don't think this would have happened type moment.
I think so as well, yeah. To sidetrack just slightly, you said there was 74 mechanics in total. How many of those were new to Arena? More or less.
Oh, I think it was around 30. And some of those were like existing mechanic but tweaked, but that's still work mechanic to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's not all kicker.
Yeah, it's not all kicker, believe me. I wish it were.
Oh, yeah. I mean, technically it is, but let's talk about that once more. There's such a huge difference between how people can learn something and how you have to teach it to a machine. And I think that it's just what people forget. And Magic has been deemed the most complicated game in the world. Like,
I've seen it. Yeah, they've done mathematical proofs.
There you go. It's just such an amazing game. And also, like, what I love about Magic is that you have so much fun with your friends. But if you want to take it to the next level, you want to go competitive, you want to go pro, you just want to like have your name on the Mount Rushmore of Magic, you can do that. And there's been like a lot of amazing moments. Me as being German, like I loved when Arne Huschenbeth won the Kaldheim Championship. That was also exclusively on Arena, so he wouldn't have won that without Arena. So I'm very happy for that. Was there like any moment for you that you were like, oh man, this is just my favorite competitive Magic moment ever?
Oh man,
I would try to find some B-roll also of it if like.
I will say, knowing how important Arena is for a lot of the folks playing in Brazil, like we've kept Portuguese alive on Arena after we weren't able to print it anymore in tabletop.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's very gratifying to me every time I see Brazilian players performing at the national level, knowing that that's something that like Arena is able to keep new Magic cards getting printed in Portuguese.
It's actually pretty wholesome because a lot of people in Portugal are in Brazil are very, very big fans of Magic. Like a huge part of my community are actually from Brazil. And it's crazy to me. Like Italy and Brazil, I think, are with the biggest like just communities we have in the world when it comes to Magic. And it's pretty cool. Like I remember also like in the early days of Arena, the first Arena championship, like it's crazy to see how Arena has evolved from there. We had this Goblin Boros deck where there was still like some difficulties that we had to fix maybe there. I remember that famous scene with Mengucci where it already skipped to the attack phase, and I think there was also like maybe a moment where like, oh no, panic button. Like, but it's so crazy to see how you manage to go from there to something when something now happens. It's so crazy to people that there's actually a bug in MTG Arena. So it's such a good program that you actually can use it competitively. I think that's also something people forget because you have to have like a competitive how do you call it? Um a guarantee that the competitiveness can stay alive. That is also why it's crazy. Why should there be anything with the shuffler if people actually have to play this game competitively? It just can't be, you know. We already are going to the last question because we already like spent a lot of time on here, but it's just so awesome. Like it's there's so many things that you're telling me where I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to hear that like from the source because it's so cool. It's just very, very cool. I mean, Arena is just a part. You already said it. Like the competitive part of Arena is something that is just super important. Do you feel like there's something that the community, apart from my videos, of course, I know that would be your first answer, that the community would be missing without Arena?
Uh, I really love how International Arena makes Magic. I love because there's always been teams in Europe and there's been teams in Japan for a really long time and that kind of thing. But I love how easily I can be sitting at my house and fire up a match and I see a name written out in katakana or hiragana and I know I'm playing against a Japanese player right now. Uh, I think that Arena shrinking the world of Magic and connecting people like that is really, really cool. I would be so sad if we didn't have that.
That was the perfect answer, actually. Like that is the main reason I love the internet. It made the world so small, like in a like a geo way, and it's very cool. It's true. Like as you already said, like just seeing those Japanese names, or like I'm blessed enough to see the difference if it's also Korean. I'm like, man, I wish I could read it. And there's always somebody in chat that is like, oh yeah, that says this and that, and I'm like, okay, cool. But that
Yeah,
is absolutely true. Just fire up a draft and be playing with somebody from, I don't know, Brazil or Italy or whatever. That's
yeah,
pretty cool. Usually only have that at Pro Tour level or at like,
exactly.
world level events. All
Yeah,
right, Ian, I'm so happy that you took the time today because this is something many people don't know that, but my big dream was always doing an interview like that. And
I'm so glad we could do it.
yeah, absolutely. I'm very, very glad that you were the first like person that I never talked about to before that I could interview like that. And it was a very, very huge honor also having you like doing this with me. Thank you for taking the time. Is there anything that you would like to tell the people before we leave, or shout out to your mom or whatever? All of that, now is the time.
I mean, I think the big thing is just, I love how many people I've gotten to meet and connect to through playing Magic and caring about Magic. I adore the community. And I think if anything, it's, please have Magic in your life in a healthy way. I know sometimes we can get passionate enough about things that it can weigh on us and yeah, I do what you need to do for Magic to be a healthy, fun part of your life.
Absolutely. Thank you again for making this game that made my career, because I would be doing some job that I really don't like if I weren't if it weren't for the game that you and your team are making. Thank you
Happy
very
to.
much. And all of you, if you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, just shoot them down below. I will
Yeah,
send them Ian, and if he has the time, he will answer. And maybe we can do this one another time. I mean, now I have
yeah.
your contact email. I will annoy the heck out of you to get you back on the show.
By all
And other
means.
than, thank you once again. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
that is all I have to say. And remember, my friends, that if you're waking up tomorrow morning and see a beautiful, beautiful face of yours in the mirror, that all of you are pretty freaking sweet. I'm MTG Malone and Ian, and we will see you all tomorrow.